So when I got that ping in the WhatsApp group saying that people were securing tickets for the Silverstone Grand Prix in 2021, my mind went crazy. So naturally I jumped up, started getting excited. I'm going to the British Grand Prix 2021, gonna see Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari, all those big boys fight it out. Now I've got a confession to make. At my big age of 30, I've never actually attended a British Grand Prix or any Grand Prix, mainly for financial reasons. I've had other things to think about. Also, a big factor in wanting to go to Silverstone this year was to see Lewis Hamilton. I wanted to have the chance to see him win, and there's always a chance of it happening despite Mercedes being on the back foot. When I actually checked the prices, this is when things got a little bit sticky because I was kind of shocked. I was thinking, this doesn't feel right, spending this amount of money on going to one race. Should I not eat for the next few months? Should I not pay my rent? This is the price of a small holiday. These are all the thoughts that were going on, swirling around my head. What the yuki was going on. Welcome to the Racing House. My name is Sakki, and keep watching to find out why F1 tickets are so expensive and if I ended up securing them. We're aiming for 20,000 subscribers. If you're new here or you haven't done so already, please like this video, subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. So to keep it as legit as possible, I went straight to the Silverstone website. So let's have a look at what we came across. And there were so many options. A lot of them had actually sold out already. I think a lot of people were eager to get there and enjoy the environment. So you could sit on the straight, some of the turns, or you could have a general admission ticket, which basically means you've got access to the whole circuit, but you don't have a seat. And it's first come, first serve in terms of the best viewing points. From what I can see, to just go on the race day, it costs the medium price of the general admission ticket. You'll get a figure of around £240 roughly. It might be higher, it might be lower. There's also other things to consider, such as travel there and back, which could cost about £80 to £100 if you're driving, or let's say you're getting a train, it could cost about £150. There's the food, so add another £60 on top of that for the weekend. And then looking at accommodation, you can add at least another £100 on top of that, whether you're camping or staying in a hotel. If we really wanted to stretch it and pinch the pennies, we're looking at about £600 in total just to attend the race, which is about the same price of a small holiday. It is a bit of a myth. So why is it so expensive? A lot of this comes from the price that is set by F1 and the price that they charge racetracks to host a race. F1 don't actually own racetracks. The race circuits use the F1 brand to market that race for each year. Let's take the British Grand Prix for example, where Silverstone would pay Formula One approximately $25 million to host the race each year. And regardless, that is a huge figure, and this is just to host a race, not including anything else. Now doing the math, the capacity of Silverstone is about 150,000 depending on a few things, but let's just use that figure to start off with. And if we're taking the medium price for around £240, multiply that by 150,000, Silverstone will be able to generate approximately £36 million in terms of ticket sales alone. Converting from the dollar to the pound, 17.6 million of that will be paid to F1 to host the race in terms of the fee that we talked about earlier. That's quite a large chunk that's immediately wiped out. That would leave Silverstone with about £18 million to play with, which is a large amount still, but I think there's a lot more in terms of costs that we need to anticipate. This £18 million needs to cover the cost of running the circuit all year round, hiring staff all year round for other events and races. And according to LinkedIn, they have about 247 staff. If those staff are earning the average of about £31,000, multiply that average wage bill by the 247 staff, that leads to a wage bill of £8 million alone just to employ staff. And then there's the prospect of circuit maintenance and upgrades or changes to the layout of the track, which can easily run into the millions and millions based on the contractor that's used to carry out the work. I'm from a construction background. You'd be surprised how much it will cost. So you can see now how this money being made has to go quite a long way to keep Silverstone running and fit for purpose. F1 charged so much money to host a race, which is then passed on to Silverstone and the British Grand Prix to then charge consumers and customers to attend. So before the race has even happened, they need to make back that £17 million to basically make sure that they're sustaining the circuit long term. So as you can see, the price comes directly from F1 and F1 management. So what kind of impact will this have on the sport going forward long term? So in the case of Silverstone, they are owned by the BRD see they do a lot of work in terms of giving funding to young, aspiring and very talented drivers. A lot of them have actually gone on to end up in F1 to have very successful careers. So before we go off on a massive tangent, they do take a massive risk each year by paying to host these races, so they should feel the reward. But there is this lingering thought in my mind: if I am having these thoughts and doubts about paying to go to the race, what on earth are a young family of 4 or 5, how are they going to afford to be able to go to these races, let alone a family from a low socio-economic background? Because there are so much more in terms of costs other than just paying for the ticket. These high ticket prices effectively set by F1 by setting these hosting fees make the cost just to get to the race act as a severe barrier to entry, enjoying it there live and direct, and may act as a deterrent for the younger generation trying to get into the sport, and may impact on the longevity of F1 going forward. But you can just watch it on the big screen, I hear you say. Well, let's not forget that F1 make you pay. The option to watch it free to air isn't available anymore. You're either going to go down the Sky route, which is extremely expensive, or you're going to go down the Now TV route, which charges you about £10 to watch each individual race. But this is also assuming that each of these fans have the tech and equipment to actually watch it, which you'd be surprised isn't always the case. So that leaves one last option, Channel 4 highlights, which I'm a big fan of. The quality is really high. This just all makes me realize that we all do consume the race quite differently, but for the majority of the people wanting to watch the race, watching it on TV is the only option, just like you'd do with any other sport, for example football. And just check in, I just wanted to compare what it looks like to go and see an F1 race live versus the cost of going to see a Premier League game live in the UK. Because things have been up in the air recently, we'll go for the 2019 prices. The average ticket price was about £32, and the average season ticket price was about £320 to £1,995, depending on the team that you support. I actually thought the average for football would be a lot higher, given how much fans complain about the price of going to watch a game of football. But that just shows you that F1 isn't the everyman sport. Physically, you can't just go to your local park and take part in an F1 race. Imagine if you could though, that would be so sick. But with the everyman sport of football, you can just pick up a ball, go down the road to the park. You can literally do it anywhere. There is this burning question at the back of my mind: would F1 ever lower that hosting fee? I think there's a couple of responses to this. They could if they really had to. We've seen in the past, for example in 2020, where there were a number of races that got cancelled and circuits had to step in very last minute. So we've seen F1 be very flexible in terms of how much they're charging circuits to host a race. So it is possible for them to do it. But I do imagine in the next round of negotiations to host races in the upcoming years, they're going to absolutely ramp up those prices and the cost for circuits to host a race, because knowing what F1 and the management are like, they're about maximizing profits. Check out the video I did on the F1 owner and billionaire, which looks a little bit like this. It goes into a lot of detail about the way that he runs his businesses and his mindset. It's really fascinating, so check that out once you're done with this video. That video is one of the main reasons why I think they're gonna ramp up the price to host a race. But in addition to that, in the past few years, F1 has really struggled with the pandemic and what's been going on. The lack of fans at races has really hit them hard in terms of profitability. I think they've been running at a loss for well over a year now, so they're going to try and recoup those losses that they've made due to what's happened. It's going to get passed on to race circuits who are hosting a race, and then eventually it's going to get passed on to consumers who are buying things such as Sky packages to watch F1, Now TV, and of course race tickets to see the race in real life. It is all a little bit depressing, so let me add a little bit more to the pile. I've actually decided not to go this year because it's just probably not the right thing to do. There's other things that I'm going to have to spend my money on. Let me save it for that. F1 holds all the cards and they are responsible for the ticket price ultimately, which I hope answers the question. As always, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I really do want to get your opinion on this. But that just about finishes off the video about why F1 tickets are so expensive. Like I said, leave a comment in the comment section. Do you have any questions, or if you're attending the British Grand Prix this year. Until next time everyone, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe and hit that notification bell to ensure that you get all my latest videos.